Welcome back. If you just come.
Radio in the car is one of the most hot topic, obviously, for the industry, and it's also a hot topic for Radiodays Europe. I remember 4 years ago being in Paris, having this presentation from a very nice person from a French car manufacturer. He has showcased what could be the dashboard in the future. 4 years later, here, when you buy this car from this French manufacturer, what was showcased is the today reality. So everything's really moving fast in the car industry. And for us, as an industry of radio and audio, we have to be super careful and super aware of what is happening, because today is already tomorrow, especially from the moment that Google appears in the car habitat on the dashboard with Google Automotive services or Android Automotive operating system. Those two new tech are super important for us as broadcasters, but you have to take your own responsibility to be good on such platforms. To talk about all this new moving world, I'm super lucky, and you are more than lucky, to have two experts with us this morning, Diana Franganillo from Strategy Analytics and Anya Ernest from Polestar. I'm very happy to have you here, both of you, and Polestar. This is one of your first appearances. And we are super lucky to have you here. Diana,
thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and thank you everybody who is here to share with us that knowledge about the future of radio in the vehicle. Thanks for the introduction. I do work for Strategy Analytics, which is a global consulting and research firm that provides our clients with insights, analysis, and expertise so they can make good decisions for their products. In particular, I lead the in-vehicle user experience research service, where our clients, helping our clients to optimize the in-vehicle experience. Prior to working for Strategy Analytics, I worked for 2 different OEMs and cover the whole product life cycle of the vehicle, from research all the way down to serial life, in particular optimizing and managing serial life. But that's enough about me, so let's move on to the conversation about radio in the car. What I will do would be to present a little bit of background information. About presenting some data that we collect every year that I think it would be insightful for you. And then I will move on to interviewing Anya. But this session is supposed to be interactive, so at any point in time, if you want to raise your questions and you want to ask us anything, we will leave plenty of time at the end of the session to address all of them. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about radio. If we can pull up the presentation whenever you are ready, please. So we know that the car is a space where much of radio listening originates. Radio is easy. We don't need to think about what do I fancy listening today. So we just can jump in the car, turn the dial on, and that's here for us. So radio is not only music, it's also companionship. It's news from local to international. So radio is much more. I mean, we were in a session with Jean-Michel Jarre yesterday, and he put it beautifully, because he said radio is the beauty of getting surprised. So radio has been always the queen of the dashboard in the Western countries. But we know that this position as the queen is being, let's say, threatened slightly in the late few years. So there is a streaming content that is kind of like a streaming music and podcast content that is following up on the heels of radio very closely. So very soon we will have a look at some data in which we are going to see what is the percentage of radio listeners, daily radio listeners over time, and listeners of the different media sources. And we will see how these percentages have evolved over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, so we're waiting for the presentation.
Yes. Thank you.
No, that's
Not
fine.
this one. Yes, this one, thank you. Okay, so as I said, this is the daily percentage of daily listeners. What is the percentage of listeners that listen every day to these sources? So let's have a look about evolution since 2012. So yeah, this is the situation right now. We know that there is a downward trend. It has been going for a few years already, but this trend has been exacerbated by COVID. So the last year in Western Europe, radio hit the radio consumption in the vehicle. So there are two effects here. It's not only that radio has reduced, that COVID-19 has reduced the number and the time of the commutes, but it has also changed the behavior of the consumers. So whilst in the States we observe a slightly different trend, in the States it seems that people have tuned into the radio to feel connected, to feel more connected with the community around, and to feel connected to the local news. It seems that in Europe people have got more into the usage of using streaming music at home through the smart speakers, and they have taken this experience when they have jumped back in the vehicle. So that's the new reality. Just to put this into a little bit more context, over last year, there was an increase of 12 million people in the number of subscriptions of Spotify, but this number is much more moderate in the case of the States. It was only 8 million, which is still significant, but you need to bear in mind that the population of the States is higher than in Europe. So, but let's don't be so pessimistic just yet. Let's have a look at a slightly different question. Let's ask our listeners, do you think that radio is a must-have for your next vehicle purchase? And let's see what happens. So yeah, still, the picture is not a pink picture yet, but we need to look at this with kind of like not just with negativity, but with positive eyes as well. We see that the trend is downhill as well, but it's not as steep as it was before. So what does it mean? It means that even people that don't listen to radio on a daily basis, they are not just prepared to let it go. They still want to keep radio on the dash. And let's provide a slightly more context and see what happens when we contrast this with other infotainment sources and with other infotainment features, such as streaming in the car. So this is the situation in terms of must-haves. And I think many people in this room would look at this like thinking, oh my goodness, this is not that great. But I think what this picture is telling us is that radio is still very important in the car. It's a really valuable option for users. What happens is that users now have more choices. And what users are saying is that they don't want only a streaming on the cars. They want all the choices. They want to be able to access to all of them and also to switch across the different sources as well. So radio is not dead. Radio is still here to stay with us for quite a while. And what we need to do together is to find the ways to strengthen its value proposition together. But in order to do this, we need to be mindful about what new technologies we do have in the car right now. So we have been attending the different sessions, and we know what is going on. First of all, I don't have a pretty picture to represent this, but what is happening in Europe, which is very positive news, is that DAB is now a mandate. As somebody was rightly putting it yesterday, this fact means that if you have a radio in your car, it has to be DAB capable. So this is going to mean a better experience for the user, better visual experience, more choices, more audio, better audio quality, and so on. So that's something to celebrate already. Another big trend that I want us, together with Anya, to discuss today is the fact that we have larger screens are now in fashion in the cars for some good reasons. and for some other reasons that are not so good. But it's a reality. We can pack more visual content in such a way that we need to be careful not to be distracted for the driver. But larger screens might allow as well the user to access to the different sources, to have more visibility of the different sources, and to switch across sources better as well. Secondly, voice is here to stay. So 10, 15 years ago, people felt quite silly talking to their car or talking to, using voice control. And it was also quite frustrating because the systems were not that great. Right now, voice is a reality. So we have got used to speak to our phones. We have got used to talk to our smart speakers as well. So we need to make the most about this interaction as well. And in fourth place, another reality, the connected vehicle is coming, is bringing many opportunities. At the Strategy Analytics, we estimate that right now, over 50% of the vehicles are already connected, and this number will only increase in the next few years. Some of these vehicles, as is the case of Polestar, are powered by Android Automotive operating system, with gas as well, with Google Automotive Services. It could be with gas or not. Polestar was was the first example to lead the market and to open the market. And so this is something that we need to be cognizant as well, which might bring some threats or uncertainties, but some opportunities as well. So, and this, I promise, this is my last slide. So this slide is only to showcase that the penetration of Android Automotive operating system is going to be quite powerful in the next few years. The numbers might need to be tweaked because they, all of you are aware of the component shortage. So maybe they are a little bit optimistic at this point in time, and we will refine them. But the thing is that it's a reality that is coming with a strength. So let's move on to getting an OEM's perspective with Anya now. Anya, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you. And you've already seen all my slides, so but we'll see if we can get them again onto the screen. That would be great. So I've been working at Polestar since 2018, which is a very short time in the real world, but in Polestar world, it's like forever. When we launched the brand in 2017, so I just started a couple of months after that, and with just a very small group of people, and now with no customers. And as of last year, we now have a lot of cars rolling the streets, and it's amazing. I can show you the car. So, yeah. And it is a high-performance, fully electric vehicle, the Polestar 2. And one of the things that is guiding us or leading us is the impact that the automotive industry has on sustainability, and primarily ecological sustainability, but obviously also looking into social. We are currently on about 14 markets, or not about, but on 14 markets, but have a big expansion plan, so to go out to about 30 markets within a couple of years. We were the first car that came out with Google Automotive Services, and this is one of the things that we will talk about in this session. But Android Automotive is the operating system, and then on top of that we have Google Automotive Services, which includes Google Play, Google Assistant, and Google Maps. This also gives our third party or developers an opportunity to develop apps for our cars without us having to be involved. So you, as radio channels or broadcasters, you can develop your apps, you can publish it onto Google Play, and it will end up in Google Play for our customers to download if they want to, which is really quite amazing, I would say. Currently, it's limited to audio, which is great if you work with audio. But if you aren't, then we also have built a team that can publish apps outside of that track, only for Polestar though. So that has been our main work in the past couple of years, to set up that organization, the way of working, and to deliver great value to our customers. I think that's, and what that is, that's up to them to decide and define together with us, of course. Last summer, I was working with some people, I think perhaps not the ones in this room, but working within your organizations to launch or talk about the launch of our car with all these radio channels available in Google Play. It is really amazing. I have a colleague who used to live in France, actually, and she's so happy because she's reconnecting with her life there. She's reconnecting by listening to the programs that she used to listen to there, and to stay in touch with that her life there. So it's really great. But there is another thing, not only Google Automotive Services, but being fully electric, it means that you can stay in the car without there being an impact on environment in the same way as keeping the engine running. So you can stay in the car and you can keep the climate. We've been talking like in Spain, if it's hot, you can have it a bit cooler. And if you're in Sweden, you can stay in the car and heat it up. Without, I mean, this keeping the engine running is really a big game changer when you're driving electric, because you're in the car and it's just working on electricity. That means that there is a scenario that hasn't been designed for. When we talk about the automotive industry, most of the time we're talking about mobility. And this is a situation where we can talk about another room, an extension of the office, an extension of the home. And like everything else, it kind of happened in this past year. How many of you, hands up, have taken a call in the car when you're not driving? Well, at least some. and that is part of the thing, I think. You can stay in the car. Not only when you're charging, but obviously the charging scenario is a time where you need to be entertained while waiting. So let's say you want to charge up 17 minutes. What can you do? You can check your emails, go and get your coffee, go to the restroom. But you can also sit down currently then and watch Swedish television, TV2 in Norway, Tagesschau in Germany. And this has been super interesting to see what the engagement has been. I was looking at the latest numbers today. I will not tell them, but I was pretty overwhelmed, and it's really cool to see your service work like that. Without a big effort, we did this. It's from a Swedish television perspective, they didn't have to do anything big in order for us to get this in place. And that was fantastic, I think. Yeah, I think I can talk forever. I love this brand, and I love what we're working with and how we are working. But I think let's let Diana drive this conversation a little bit, and I
remember that you have a short video to demonstrate what's happening with radio when it's on Google Play Store.
Yeah, so we work a lot with prototyping, and when we talk about things, I don't know if you know, but if you have the same feeling, but sometimes you talk about something, but it's very abstract because it's never been done before. So how can you get people to fully understand? And one way of doing that is, of course, prototyping, and you build something very, yes, this is what we can do, and you allow someone to test it in their car. But then, perhaps they don't have a car, so then you just go to the parking lot, you make a film, and you send it out. So this was me just waiting for my kids while they were doing their practice, once again, not being allowed to actually go in and look. Yeah, I hope that no one gets upset that I'm showing this film now. Oh, this is the radio one. No problem then.
NPR is bringing all the news you need to know about the people, policies, and issues that are shaping the nation today. Come back here as often as you'd like for the latest headlines and in-depth analysis.
Support for WAMU comes from ExxonMobil, who has
Yeah, this was actually something that I filmed just before I got on the plane to get here, actually. So I got it a bit mixed up, so I feel comfortable now. I was a bit nervous about which film I was showing. Great, so yeah, now you got a little bit of a tangible experience of our radio in the car. I'm sure some of you have already seen it, but I'll just leave this here.
Thanks, Anya. So you're an exploration lead within Polestar. Polestar is not any brand. It has kind of like a big mission statement and differentiated mission statement. Yesterday, many of us attended a session about traditional to digital, and there was an interesting conversation about the culture within the organization, whether organizations allow people to fail and do not penalizing them for failure. As an exploration lead, how does it feel in Polestar? How is the culture?
Yeah, and I think this was something that we discussed a lot yesterday, because this building a failure culture is, I'm not sure that, I understand what you're trying to say, that it's okay not to achieve what you plan to achieve, but I think that that is the challenge here, that you think that you are in control, and you aren't in control. And instead of doing a project and say it was a failure or a success, you can set up a hypothesis and you can do learnings. And I think that that is the key thing here, to really look at, okay, what can we learn from this? What is it that we want to achieve? And if we didn't achieve it, how come? What happened? And that, as an exploration lead, that's all that I try to do, actually, to push people to kind of expand and think more broadly.
Okay. And, well, we have mentioned it several times already. Polestar was the first car to go to market with Android Automotive operating system, with gas as well. It's quite intimidating to be the first one, so that must have been challenging. And I want you to talk about this. But before, because it might sound a little bit confusing, could you explain a little bit the difference between Android Auto mirroring system and the operating system?
Absolutely. And a lot of the time, this is sure not a confusion in this room, but Android Auto is a projection from your phone. So you still need your phone to be able to access the apps that you have in there that are built for Android Auto. When we talk about Android Automotive, this is an operating system within the car. So the car, it's its own brain, and you have Google Play in the car, which is a great, I would say that the greatest thing is that you can connect to the signals in the car. You can, like for the video player, for example, it's connected to the signals telling which gear the car is in. So obviously, if it's in D or in R, then you can't watch film. You can keep the audio though, so if you're watching some news while you're charging, you can continue to listen to them while you're driving. Mm-hmm. And this makes it interesting the first app that we developed and delivered was in November. Once again, exploration together with a company that were brave enough to do this. We built an app for parking. Oh, they did. They built the app for parking. And it's connected also to the gear specifically, which means that you can only start it when it's in P, and when you drive, put it into drive, the parking will stop. And it's like the beer app. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a beer app that was connecting to the gear on the accelerometer. Silly app, but you could still kind of see how the phone was moving, which opens up the ideas and creativity with people to understand that you can actually connect to the phone in that case, but to the car in this case then. And there are a number of signals that you as a developer can listen to and see what the car is currently doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's important for developers to get the context of when people are using the different apps and so on. So your brand is kind of like quite of a niche brand, so it's not producing hundreds of thousands of vehicles, but kind of like around 10,000, in order of tens of thousands of vehicles and so on. So you have a particular customer, you have a limited kind of like amount of vehicles at the moment. How well do you think that you know your customers, and how do they interact with media in the car and in particular with radio?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is up to you. You know, you are building the apps. You are the ones who can collect the data. We are not collecting the data from the apps that you are building. And that means that we don't know how people interact with the applications that are in the car. And if I build an app, then obviously I'm collecting data and asking permission, clearly, to see how can I improve it. All the projects that I do are there to, or I do, I mean, I work with a group of people as cross-functional as I can. But to really see and learn, but to set up what is it that we want to understand, and then learn from what the app is doing. So moving away from a kind of traditional double diamond design thinking into a more lean startup, build, measure, learn, and to keep that going. There was someone yesterday who said, there was also in that traditional to digital, moving from to have small projects, to have fast projects, and to constantly have this eagerness to learn. I think that's.
Yeah, I think an organization should keep that eagerness. My next question for you was going to be if you have to ask broadcasters to do something to help you to strengthen the radio position in the dash, what was that going to be? I guess that partially you have responded to the question. You would like them to understand what the customers better. Is there anything else?
No, but I think for us, we're just a device in that sense. I think for me as a customer, I mean, I also drive, so I listen to the radio. I listen to the radio a lot, actually. And what you can do is to explore how are people listening. I can't do that, but you can do that. You can see like connecting to time, obviously. There is signals for geoposition. However, you need to ask permission to be able to access that, and it's not always given to you. But you can also look into outdoor temperature, for example. Are people listening to a specific channel when it's cold? Is the car standing still, or is it moving? Those kind of things. And to learn, and to,
yeah, I would think it would be great if that learning was collective as well. So we have been talking about how streaming is approaching fast, how now the customers have more choices. So, but we tend to see the dashboard as a competition. I personally think that there is kind of like room for synergies, for personalizing content. I mean, and we all in this room, I guess that would agree to some extent. So there are opportunities as well, not only threats brought to this ecosystem. What opportunities do you see for the future of the radio in the car?
Yeah, I think one of the thing is one of the key things about choosing Android Automotive for the car is, in my opinion, is that it fits into our customers' ecosystem. Instead of us trying to fit the customer into our ecosystem. So really just adding to that, if we have the customer-centric perspective, and this saying, okay, you can still use your Google account, you can log in, and then you download your application to which you log into as well, which means that when you then transfer, we were talking about like seamless movement between the different devices, right? So if you have the same login and you have, and then it's quite simple to move in between those. In the cases where you don't have login, then obviously you don't track the customer in that sense, and here it's deep waters for me because it's not my expertise. But I think also, so on the one hand, for the customer to know how to get in and to get their applications, but then on the other hand, also allowing for developers to work in an ecosystem that they are knowledgeable about as well. So it's been super easy to do these prototypes because we have an Android developer who's fantastic, Oscar, and it goes really fast.
Okay.
From idea to in my car.
Yeah,
so
that's really important to get things. I was going to ask you as well. I mean, we have talked about electric vehicles, but there is another reality that will come sooner or later, hopefully at some point. And I'm referring now to automated vehicles. So if we fast forward quite a few years, and we think of the era where automated vehicles have penetrated the market, how do you see audio in the car at that time, and in particular radio? Do you think that everything is going to be replaced by video streaming, or do you think that people will be still listening to things, not only watching things?
So I think autonomous drive is a challenge if your focus has only been on mobility. Just by thinking about the car as an extension of the room and an extension of the office kind of covers the autonomous drive as well. What do people want to do? I mean, if you do a study, they say, oh, please don't take it away from me. That's the only time when I cannot read my emails and send text messages. But I mean, if we can allow for people to stay, to do what they want to do and need to do, then they will do it. And I mean, I'm as good as predicting the future as any of you, so I would say just go out and explore. That's the way forward, I would think. Have a hypothesis, try it on a small scale, and then see what happens, see what the test is telling you.
Thank you very much. I was going to check, is there any questions that have come through already?
Yeah, thank you. And I know that you two are willing to have the most interactive session this morning. So in the room, if you have a question, please raise your hand right now. There can be a mic coming to you. And I've got a question from the Swap app application. From Jan Dirk de Haan, I think it's from the Netherlands. Should radio stations develop a car radio app for themselves, or is it their one platform for radio stations which they could already join? I know that you have an advice about going on an aggregator or doing your own application. If you want to go on Polestar and be available in Polestar too.
I think that's, if I understood the question correct, should one build your own app or be part of an aggregated app?
Yeah. Like radio player, etc.
in my opinion, an aggregated app is a way for a customer to just have to download one app. So it makes it simple. You don't have to browse around and look for things. For me, I only listen to Swedish radio, so I'm very happy that they have their own app. But I think it's once again, how would you investigate that? From my opinion, it's about how strong you are as a brand and how easy it will be for your customer to find your application, and also how much resources you have to build your own app. I think there are quite some good stuff also in the aggregated apps. I was in a session yesterday on hybrid radio, talking about metadata and those kind of things, and I think perhaps that is helpful. So it depends on your organization and your what you have in terms of opportunities within. Good answer?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think Jan will be happy with this.
Yeah.
Is there, sorry, I cannot see you, but is there anybody who is raising hands? Oh, you're so shy this morning. I've got a question. Okay, Floris from the VRT, the Flemish public service from Belgium.
Thank you for my introduction. Not you, I'm Floris, nice to meet you. Good insights, good presentation. Can I have a prototype Polestar to test out at some point, to test out the radio? That would be really nice. Do a test drive and see how radio works. I saw in your video that you also have FM radio and DAB radio inside of your dashboard. How will that compare in terms of looks to the apps? Because you say if you want an app, you have to write it yourself, which is great, so we have control over that. How will radio look in the broadcast version in the dashboard? Will it look great also? Because there's possibilities there. There's visuals for FM or DAB. How will that look?
So I've been looking a little bit into the or testing the DAB radio. I mean, since I don't work with that, it's more from a customer perspective that I've been testing it, and I find that the big difference, the biggest difference, is the UX. So I find the UX within the app superior. It's also something that I work with. It's something that I know. I know that I can download apps. Friends in the family used the car, set up their profile, and when I got back, they have only been listening to DAB radio. So I mean, once again, it's about a shift as well. I look into what my kids are searching for when they have been in the car, and they search for apps a lot more than others do. So who are we designing for? Is it those who buy the car, or those who go in the car, or those who borrow the? I mean, I don't know if it answered your questions, but I prefer the app. But if you ask my parents-in-law, they prefer.
Well, there's a brand of electric vehicles that is one of your competitors that when you want to listen to DAB, you have to choose the multiplex, and then you have to choose the station in that multiplex. Our listeners don't care about the multiplex, you just want a list of radio stations.
Yeah.
So in terms of UX, that was basically my question.
It's just a button for us, so it works.
Great.
Yeah, works perfectly.
There's another question here and here. Thank you very much.
But you should test drive the car. It's really a nice drive, I must say.
I think you have to set up a meeting, you two.
Okay, my question is, what do you think about Alexa voice assistant for automotive technology?
So we have Google Assistant, and that works really well. I mean, it's up to, I mean, if you have a customer who wants to use Alexa, then obviously you have to dive into what opportunities there are. But currently on the roadmap, I don't have that. But it's not what I'm working with that much anyway. So, but I think we didn't talk that much about the voice. We just
didn't
touched
talk
upon
that much about voice and about what new opportunities might arise due to the use of voice. I mean, Alexa has tried to get their way into the car, and it's demonstrated that it's quite challenging. So it's not as easy as sticking, your smart speaker into the vehicle ecosystem. So it has proven to be challenging for Amazon as well.
But it's also, I mean, just voice as a service or as an interaction model. I think it's super interesting because, I mean, from my end, I was working in a research environment, and we had one of those voice services, and it would never hear me. It would never do what I asked it to do, which meant that I stopped using it because it was embarrassing, especially when the guys who I was working with, they didn't have to articulate at all. They just told it to do stuff, and it did. In the car, you're in a safe environment. It's just you, and so you can get angry with the voice interaction without anyone having to see you, but you can kind of continuously try things. And I think creating these safe environments for prototyping and for testing and developing stuff, I think it's super important, and the car is with this ecosystem, is a good playground for that.
Thank you. And I think we have a question here in first row and then fourth row.
Hi, Christophe from Radio France. Very happy to hear women talking about cars. That's great. Anya, I've got a question for you. Do you have a special business model with Google?
So our business model is to, if I understood you correct, you're asking about the business model.
Do you have a special business model with Google for the integration of Google Automotive services?
I don't know. I'm not. Sorry.
Thank you. Caroline from Radio Player. I just want to know, from your car manufacturer perspective, are you happy with the way that the radio apps are working on Google Automotive, or are you thinking or wishing for more complex, more user-friendly, more interactive features there?
No, I think the simpler it is, the better, because it's for the video player we can make it as complex as we like because the car is standing still. But for the radio, it's good to have these kind of templates so that you know whichever audio application you're interacting with, it's using a similar interaction like UX. And obviously that helps our customers to, they just want to listen to their things. And what I would like is, of course, the deeper connection with Google Assistant. So that I can ask to get a podcast being played at a specific, I don't think that is working now 100%.
I can only say we would like that too.
Yeah.
It's not up to us.
No.
We've got the time for one last question, if somebody is. I know that nobody is. I have a last question from the Swap app card, and it will be about data. Ludovic from the Netherlands wants to know who is owning the data at the end of the day. Will it be the editor of the apps, you as a car manufacturer, or Google?
I mean, if it's being collected from the app, it's the app developer. That's the short answer. We don't even get it from you. I mean, we shouldn't either. And perhaps you are collecting data from the applications, perhaps you aren't. This is something between you and your user. What does the agreement between the two of you look like? And I would encourage you to open up that dialogue with your customer to get more data, to look into the future.
I think it would be good if that data came back in the dialogue with the OEMs as well at some point, so they can consider it when they are rethinking new experiences and so on.
Yeah, as long as your customers are okay with it, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. What I would like is to spend 2 more hours here, but I think you also have an opportunity to meet all the people from the room, apart from Floris, who gonna try to steal the car. You will have new meetings, I guess. Thank you very much. It's time for a break. Thank you.
Thank you, Mathieu. Thank you, Anya. Thank you, Dan. Fantastic. I can't imagine not listening to the radio in my car, but you know, all the things you talked about, fantastic. Now, lunch break till 2 o'clock. Then we're back in here this afternoon, finding the heartbeat in complexity, including lessons from Radiolab, then 30 ideas in 45 minutes, and then we reveal the destination, the city for Radio Days 2022. Enjoy your lunch. Brilliant.